Hello, everyone. Welcome to Avaya's Overcoming PTSD curriculum. I'm Andy Anderson. My partner, Ike Allen, and I are teachers, mentors, and the co-owners of Avaya University. Avaya is the creator of over 1,000 books, films, courses, teachings, and other supportive materials. Thank you so much for joining us. Our fellow teacher, Eileen McKusick, is here to talk with us today about the effects of stress on our body's electrical system. Eileen is a researcher, author, inventor, speaker, and educator who has been studying the effects of sound on the human body since 1996. She is the founder of the sound therapy method called biofield tuning, and she's also the author of the book Tuning the Human Biofield and her upcoming book Electric Body, Electric Health. Thank you so much for being here with us, Eileen.
Thanks, Andy. Good to be here.
So let's dive into electric health. This sounds very interesting. So what do you mean by electric health?
Yeah, so I think that most people get that different parts of their body are electric, right? If you get an EKG, it's measuring the electrical activity of your heart. If you get an EEG, it's measuring the electrical activity of your brain. We understand that our blood carries a charge. Some of us know that our bones are actually crystalline structures that make electricity when they're compressed. A lot of information has been coming out lately about how fascia transfers electrical energy. So I think that what is going on is that we've been kind of missing the forest from the trees, because when we step back and we look at the human body, it is actually, there is an underlying electrical system. And that electrical juice, whether our light is on or our light is off, is the determinant about whether we're alive or not. When we die, and our light goes out, that's because the electric aspect of our body has departed.
Gotcha. Yeah. No, that's an interesting way of looking at it. So, how did you get into this line of work before we dive into, more around electric health? I'm just curious, what brought you to this line of work?
So I had a part-time massage therapy practice, and I'm a researcher by nature. I like to read a lot, and I've read many thousands of books and all kinds of stuff. Really sort of a big information sponge, especially in the fields of health, human potential, science and spirituality, all that kind of stuff. And so I was reading books at that time about the use of color and sound and music, basically vibrational healing. And it made a lot of sense to me, because I'd come across Deepak Chopra saying everything is vibration, everything appears solid, but it's really vibration. And I was like, well, if everything is fundamentally vibration, we're fundamentally vibration, then treating vibration with vibration just makes sense. Seems like, elegant. Mm-hmm. So I found, after reading all these books, and there weren't many in the mid 90s, I found a set of tuning forks for healing in a Gaiam catalog and just bought them on impulse. And I started to play with them in my massage therapy practice and really started making all kinds of interesting observations, and people were reporting therapeutic outcomes. And this is Connecticut in the mid 90s. And if I told anybody that I was doing tuning fork healing, they're balancing their chakras, there was a very predictable, skeptical response about that really troubled me. And so I just kept it as a hobby for a really long time. But then what ended up happening 10 years into this, of doing, just a few here and there out of curiosity's sake more than anything. And I was in a different industry altogether. I was in the food industry. And I started to make discoveries. I'd been just working over the body. But then I started discovering that there was phenomena going on around the body, basically in the body's atmosphere. I started discovering all kinds of sonic anomalies as I was passing a tuning fork through this environment around the body. In some places it felt like the tuning fork, when it was moving slowly towards the body, that it would actually hit something like a patch of resistance. Like it felt like stuff, and it felt like it didn't want to move. And if I stayed there with it and kind of broke it up, then I could actually move it with a tuning fork like you would use a magnet to move iron filings. It was so bizarre. And I was like, what is this stuff that I'm encountering? What is it? And what law of physics is determining the fact that I can move this stuff with a vibrating tuning fork. It was so confusing. And what was even more confusing was when I started poking around in the field and started moving things around. I'd find like a loud stuck spot and I would like move it to the midline of the body. It would feel like it got sucked into the body. And then the person would look lighter and brighter. And then they would say, wow, I feel better. And that was really strange, right? I mean, it was just so strange. So when I started getting these very dramatic therapeutic outcomes from people by moving stuff around in their field with a tuning fork, I realized that I was onto something, because I was treating people who had pain for years and it was going away in one session. I had people who had massive anxiety disorders. It was going away in just a few sessions. People, were saying their depression was lifted and this ailment was gone, and that, and it was like everybody wants relief from suffering in a way that's so non-invasive, and somebody waving a tuning fork over you and bang, your pain goes away. Like, that's pretty cool. But there was this image problem. And I realized that if I wanted to bring it out in the world to help people, which I felt like I needed to, it would be really helpful, one, if I understood what was going on, and two, if I had some degrees. And so I went to college as an adult and go as a youth. And between 2007 and 2012, I got my undergraduate and graduate degrees, and I wrote a master's thesis called Exploring the Effects of Audible Sound on the Human Body and its Biofield. And biofield is the key word here, because biofield is the scientific term for what we would call, what others might call the aura or the human energy field, and what I have come to see as the body's electrical system in its sum totality.
Awesome. Thank you. That's a fun story. Interesting to, especially the parts about, right, having the tools and then seeing the stuck parts and being able to like kind of unpack that and discover that mystery. That's really cool. So let's talk about stress, because I know that in your work you talk about how our electric bodies are affected by stress, and we're talking all about post-traumatic stress today. So how do you think our electric bodies are affected by stress?
Well, we all know that we have memories, right? So where do these memories live? Do they live in our brain? Do they live in our muscles and our cells? Where are these memories? And, why do people have good memory? Why do people have bad memory? I mean, obviously all our memories are stored in our system because we relive past stressors. So what my research uncovered is that as I'm exploring this atmosphere around the human body, and this was years, I mean, this was many, many years of exploration. I think when I started working around the body, it was around 2005. And between 2005 and say 2008, 9, 10, I was in the middle of Vermont, in the middle of nowhere, 25-acre meadow up on a mountain. There was no noise at all. And I'd even unplugged the refrigerator in the other room. And I listened so deeply to bouncing sound off people and listening to the signal that came back, like sonar or like bats or dolphins, or like an ultrasound machine. It's like just putting in the signal, listening to the ping back. And over many thousands of hours, because my practice got busier and busier and busier until I finally had to shut it down. I got so busy. I couldn't manage it anymore. And the reason why I got busy is because this works. It helps solve people's problems, because it gets directly into their memory banks. And my hypothesis, it's just a hypothesis, is that what we call our biofield, our biomagnetic field, which I've come to see as a electromagnetic bubble that surrounds our body, it's not so different than the Earth's magnetosphere or the sun's heliosphere. Anything that has an electric current running through it has a magnetic field around it, and magnetic fields take on these toroidal shapes. So we have a diffuse magnetic field that surrounds our body. And what I discovered was that all our memories seem to be encoded and accessible through this field. So what I discovered was that memories that people had generated recently were all encoded vibrationally close to the body. Memories from childhood, from gestation, from birth, were at the very outer edge of the field. And everything else fell in between, like rings in a tree. So I developed the ability to start at the outer edge of somebody's field with my tuning fork, almost like dropping a needle on an album, And by moving slowly through these tree rings, I was able to vibrationally read the record of their lives. So if somebody was 40 and I hit a big patch of turbulence and stuck energy about halfway through their field, about 2.5 feet away, 3 feet away, and it was on the left side of their shoulder, which was an area that I had identified seemed to be holding all the sad memories. I could tell them, it feels like when you were around 20, you went through something very, very sad. And they would say, yes, you know, that's when my mom and dad were both killed in a car accident. Okay? So, and then the disturbance that the body goes through in an experience like that was laid down like a little ticker, like a little, you know, you're going along and all of a sudden you get this tragic news and all of a sudden your whole nervous system goes haywire, right? And so that's encoded there, that where that needle went wonky, when I stick a fork in that zone, it's going to interface with that information and I'm going to hear that information in the tuning fork. Okay. So in this way, the work is diagnostic in a way because we can find areas of trauma because the energy is frozen, it's stuck, it's dissonant, it's holding all the energy of that trauma. Now, when I put a vibrating tuning fork, which is producing a steady, coherent tone, into this, it is initially going to resonate with it. It is going to reveal the tonal expression of what that experience felt like. And you're going to hear it, and I'm going to hear it, and we're even going to feel it together. And you might cry. And if it's really tragic, I might cry right along with you because I'm just bathed in that vibe, right? So I'm really witnessing and feeling being in your pain. And that alone is really huge, to have somebody get inside your mind and sit there with you and feel your pain with no judgment. But the beautiful thing is that that state doesn't last very long because as soon as the body hears that it's out of tune and it has this input that it can reference itself again, it actually spontaneously begins to auto-tune. It starts to relax the tension that's holding that pattern in place. Breath starts to open up. People take full breaths. The pocket of static that has been here starts to resolve back into harmony. And it's the body that's doing it. It's not me. I'm just holding the fork there. It's the biofeedback. It's kind of like looking in the mirror and seeing you have spinach in your teeth. Like, what are you going to do? You're going to fix it. Your body is getting this reflection that it's all, you know, akimbo and cattywampus. And it's like, whoa, I need to fix that. And it's giving it the reflection it needs to make the adjustment. Just like if my guitar is in tune and yours is out of tune, and I like play my E for you and you listen and adjust until you're in tune. That's what the human body does. It's so amazing. We're designed to be healthy and in tune. We have all the codes for health and well-being all inside of us. We just have a lot of noise and resistance in our electrical bodies. And the more stress we've been exposed to, the alcoholic father coming after us with a belt, you know, your whole system goes into lockdown and the chaos that's taking place. That stuff never goes away. It lives on in our systems. And the more inputs we have like that, the more frozen energy we have in our system, the less bandwidth we have to be responsible, to be appropriately responsive to more incoming stress, because we still haven't processed the backlog of noise and stuckness and chaos in our systems already. Right? So I've worked with a number of and lots of people who have PTSD. I mean, I think we all do to some degree, right? But some people have had very extreme PTSD to the point where they just have no ability to process information anymore. And it's not their fault. And it's nothing you can talk them out of because their wiring is all frayed and gummed up. So if we treat PTSD from the level of the electric body, and something as simple as a tuning fork. I know it sounds absurdly simple, but what I discovered in PTSD is that the field around the head is like, you know, just so much going on. It's like a big house and every radio and every light and everything is on and the refrigerator door is open and the stove is open and like there's this chaos everywhere. Like, where do you even begin, right? But just going through the field really slowly with tuning forks, hitting these areas, letting the energy settle down. And what happens too is that our energy gets stuck in these places. So wherever there's a chaotic pattern, it sort of traps electric energy and you end up with these sort of frozen patches all around, which then stops body energy from flowing through your body. And that drops your vitality, right? I mean, people who live with PTSD are living and surviving with just a fraction of their potential available to them. But the amazing thing is, okay, when you start liberating this potential in people who have had PTSD, when you start settling down the noise and freeing up the energy, these people turn into superheroes because they've had to work so hard to just get by. And now all of a sudden, when that trauma has been settled down and that energy has been released and their body starts to relax and they start to breathe and become more free, they have advantages over people who haven't suffered. They're stronger, and now they're getting themselves back, right? So for me, this process with sound is an opportunity for people to turn those difficulties that they had, those obstacles and those challenges, into stepping stones towards superhero status. Mm-hmm. Like those bits of yourself that you lost in chaos, you can have back. You can have back. And you can experience quiet in yourself. Like this does not have to be a life sentence at all. Now, obviously there's different degrees, right? I mean, there's people who need a lot more, you know, but there's body work, there's nutritional supplementing, there's ways to work with what's out there to maybe not fully heal for everybody, but to drastically improve your quality of life.
It leads me to my next question, which was to ask you, like, through this methodology, do you see people fully recovering from things like PTSD?
Again, it really depends on the severity, right? Mm-hmm. Because you say PTSD, but it's such a broad spectrum of stuff. You know, there are people who get mildly damaged, probably like myself, you know, who grew up in a family with 5 older siblings who were 6 to 12 years older than me, and suffered a lot of teasing and tickling and camel bites and, you know, never had an ally, skipped 2 grades, constantly got picked on, right? I mean, that's PTSD. I wasn't being beaten, but I was isolated, bullied, you know, picked on constantly, and it messed me up, right? Have I recovered fully? Yes. You know, but have I seen people with much more extreme stuff recover? Yes, but with multiple inputs, not just the work that I do.
Gotcha.
Multiple inputs.
Mm-hmm. So like, are there ways that people can, I mean, obviously, right, there's, right, working with you, but how are there ways that people can be doing this on their own? Do you what do you recommend for people if they want to start exploring this as a modality to heal?
Well, you know, I've got a lot of different levels of resources available for people. When my practice became so busy that I couldn't see one-on-one people anymore, I started working, as odd as this sounds, I started working on groups remotely, like through an audio link. Okay. And I would conduct these groups sessions over an empty treatment table, record them. People would listen to them, and I did a whole bunch for free first to make sure it worked. And people would come back and say, it felt like you were speaking directly to me. My pain went away. This was really helpful. And so at my website, we have hundreds of audio recordings for all different kinds of things that ail you, that you can listen to that aren't that expensive. We have thousands of practitioners around the world, and you can find a practitioner at my website. I've developed sound tools for self-care. So here's one of them. This is what's called a weighted tuning fork. It is called a sonic slider. This is based in the Earth's natural electric resonance. The ionic cavity pulses with electricity. You know, we actually live in a field of electricity. It's something like 130 volts per meter. Like, we all live in a sea of electricity. We don't even really realize that. We breathe it in. We're like fish swimming in water in this electric field that is the Earth. And that field has a frequency, and that frequency informs all of nature. It informs our brain waves. And it's around between 7.5 and 8 hertz, but the sort of mean is 7.83. And so this particular fork is 7.83 times 12, which is 93.96 hertz. But what it is like a frequency of nature. And so when we expose ourselves to it, it helps to kind of order and soothe our own electrical system. And this is something that can be used on yourself. So I designed it to be, to slide on your body. I developed a boot to go on the end, and you can slide the boot. You slide it all over your body. You basically like take this vibration and you just rub it all over yourself. And this is what people have reported. And we've sold thousands of these, that they have improved sleep, that they have improved mood, that they have increased energy level. Some people say that it's made their digestion stronger and that they're able to have gluten and dairy and things that they couldn't. Some people say it's reduced their anxiety, that it has improved, it has created more synchronicities in their life, that it has made them trust their intuition more. There's so many things. What I found using it is that it helped me to lose weight, and it helped to sort of sculpt my body. I don't exercise or work out or do anything, but just like standing on a vibration plate will give you muscle tone. Putting vibrations into your body, coherent energy is going to make you feel coherent and energized and stronger. And so that, it's a simple tool. It's not that expensive. You can use it on yourself. You can use it on others. And it helps to soothe and settle. A lot of people are using it very successfully with autistic children and getting them to soothe and settle. So that's one of the tools that's out there. I know a lot of people who really suffer don't necessarily have resources to buy things like this, right? So I have a few free sessions that we share, but I do really try to educate people about all the things that are available to them for free, and one of the most important things we can do for our health is actually breathe more fully and more freely, to notice every time you're holding your breath. Because when we've had a lot of trauma, those vibrations tend to reassert themselves in our body and mind. The memories tend to come up. And when we're in a trigger, we're holding our breath. We're holding our breath. And our breath is the biggest way that we bring life into ourselves, right? Because you can go for weeks without food, and you can go for days without liquids, but you can only go a few minutes without breath, right? So that tells us that our biggest connection to life itself is through our breath. And the best way that we can regulate our own mood is through monitoring and exploring our breathing. There's the Wim Hof method, for example. He's got a lot of videos up there. That's something that you could go and do. But the simplest thing you can do, just monitor your breathing. When you're starting to get triggered, take a big breath into the belly and then exhale your energy down your legs and out your feet into the ground. Go outside, get barefoot on the ground, lie on the grass, breathe in life, breathe in this moment, listen to the birds, bring yourself back into now. That's the simplest, most free way that you can kind of shift your state, if you're starting to have a hard time.
Beautiful. Thank you. It's always good to be reminded of the breath. Of course, right. As you said that, I was like, right. Breathe, breathe. So a couple of things. One thing, I just wanted to make a comment on how you said you didn't work out. And of course, like when you brought up your arm, I was like, wow, she must work out. She's rubbing the thing. I'm like, look at that bicep. So anyways, that was number one.
Can I show it again? Because I want to let people know that it's possible to be 51, be cut, and not. I spend my days slumped over a laptop, and now I'm slumped over my electric guitar because I'm learning that. I don't walk, I don't do yoga, I don't exercise. I just spend time every day rubbing this fork on myself.
Wow.
And it's made me tone strong. It's improved it's just made me healthier.
That's
and
awesome.
I like shortcuts, so this is a good one.
Thank you. So one other question for you. Since we originally connected a few months ago before we did our Overcoming Chronic Pain event here at Avaya, because I know that's another big focus of yours, and you've mentioned that a little bit throughout this conversation. So what's the link in your experience between stress, trauma, and chronic pain, and any insights you can give people around that?
Yeah. Well, I will tell you that the vast, vast, vast majority of pain I have treated has been emotional. It's been emotional. When we get right down, when we dig into it, when we listen deeply, this pain in your back that you've had for 30 years, that was from your business partner embezzling all of the money and killing your business, and you've been struggling ever since. And when I went in there and I listened to that pain and you told me that story, that pain went away. right? I mean, that's just one example of many, 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 many. Because what happens is in our biofields, okay, electricity is constantly flowing through our body and through our field. Now, when you have an emotion that you are trying to suppress, which is what most of us do, right? Because how many people were taught effective emotional management by their parents? Anybody? So what we have been taught to do with emotions is to suppress them. Nice girls don't get angry. Big boys don't cry. Stop your nonsense. Children are to be seen and not heard. Take this pill. Take this cigarette. Take this drink. Take this new car. Take this porn. Take this Netflix. Take all of this stuff, but don't feel and don't express how you feel. So we suppress it. And we might suppress it with an addiction, you know, that's going to make us go on. We don't know what to do with our emotional pain.
Right.
We just don't know. And so we hold on to it. And when you're holding on to something that has a destiny to be expressed, and an emotion is a waveform that travels through our body, it takes about 90 seconds. It rises up, it ideally crests into our awareness and some kind of expression. We burst into tears, we burst into laughter, you know, we swear because we stubbed our toe, and then it's gone, right? Kids, you know, the emotion comes up and goes out. They don't last. There's no such thing as an infinite emotion. They're waves, they come through. But if we resist wave after wave after wave of emotion, we're holding all this tension in our bodies to hold it back, that then creates resistance in the electrical flow, which creates traffic jams in our system because the resistance is stopping the flow, which creates inflammation and pain. And the body starts to suffer because our electric juice isn't getting to where it needs to go. It's all gummed up somewhere, you know, freaking out, off key, off rhythm, stuck in that grievance, in that pain, in that suffering, in that grief, whatever it is that you aren't letting roll through you.
Yeah, that's so key. I'm so glad that you mentioned that, because I always, emotions are such a tricky thing, especially like you said, like most of us aren't taught as youngsters on how to allow and feel and let it go, and or just like let it like go through its natural course of motion in and out, right? And
That's right.
And yeah, I think that can be a really tough thing for people. So thank you for linking that into chronic pain, because I know a lot of people obviously are struggling with that who are listening right now. So So any other thoughts around, I guess that, any other like ways people could learn to allow their emotions in, allow themselves to feel them, and eventually like let all that stuff that's been bound in them for so long out?
Well, a lot of reasons why we don't let it out is safety, right? I mean, or fear of what other people think. I mean, we got to really take a good look at why we're not holding it back, why we're not letting it out, and honor and respect that. Right? So to not like make ourselves feel guilty because we're doing this, or, you know, there's a reason why we developed the habits that we did. And it's usually for our safety. So I think it's really important to honor that. The trouble with holding back the quote negative emotions, and I don't believe that any emotion is a negative emotion. There's no, you know, every emotion happens for a reason. They're like zip strips on the highway, you know, like there's something in my environment that's unsafe that's causing me to respond. Like, pay attention. You know, like it's important to have shame and guilt. You know, if we didn't have shame, you become a psychopath. If you didn't have guilt, you'd eat that whole pint of ice cream every time instead of putting it back after just a third. Right. So we rage, every emotion serves a purpose and is there for a reason, has a message, and they're designed to keep us healthy, to keep us, you know, in our flow, and they're important. So understanding that every emotion is necessary. It's there to keep you alive. It's valid. I think that where we get scared of emotions is like, you know, if you've ever been angry and in the heat of anger, you've taken it out on somebody, you know that that's not cool. A lot of us don't want to do that, right? But we don't know what else to do with it. Like, anger is just fire. It's heat. It's energy. You know, you can clean with it. You can scrub walls. You can go for a run. You can do push-ups. There's lots of things you can do while the heat of an emotion is on you, and not act out, because it'll pass. The heat of it will pass, you know? So harness that energy. Use it to fucking clean out you know, that closet or whatever, you know? And it's okay that rush of energy is coming through you. Use it, you know? Ride your dragon. Don't let it throw you around. If you can. right? I mean, the trouble with emotions is that it's so complex. And again, you have such a big spectrum. What's possible for one person to do in a healthy way isn't possible for another person. So I want to be careful to not be disrespectful of people who are really suffering, right? Or who are in unsafe situations and things like that.
Yeah.
But ultimately, if we can learn to trust our emotions, if we can learn to trust that they're just going to move through and then be gone, then the good ones come. If we're holding back all the bad ones, we're holding back all the good ones. We're holding back the joy, the spontaneity, the playfulness, the laughter, the mischievousness, whatever. And those are the things that we want to be able to enjoy about life, right? Mm-hmm. So if we're too busy holding back the bad, we miss the good. And it's okay to feel. It's okay to have feelings. They're okay. And they come and go. And the more you allow them, the less of a backlog you have and the healthier you become.
Beautiful. Thank you. I love that. I really enjoy the whole conversation around emotions, how that links back to trauma as well as things like pain, and beautiful expression of that. So thank you. So I want to make sure you have a chance. You've talked a little bit about how people can learn more about you, but I know you have a free gift for everybody that you may have already mentioned, but there's a link below everybody that you can click on to grab that. So anything else you'd like to share about that?
So that is a series called Fine Tuning the Brain. And it works in there because the adrenals definitely get affected. I think our bones get affected when we're under stress. But our brain is where PTSD really shows up for me. And so this series is me combing through, and it might be hard for, a lot of people don't get how distance healing works. I have a YouTube channel. If anybody wants to check that out, maybe I can share it with you. I have a talk on how does distance healing work. I didn't think it was possible, just so you know. I wasn't gullible about it. I was really skeptical about it. But then I saw that it worked. And I was like, well, everybody's telling me it works. So there must be some kind of natural law. Just like the tuning forks moving stuff in the field that I didn't understand. But then as I came to understand the electric body, I started to get what was going on. So there must be a natural law that explains it, right? And it's the same with distance healing. It works. This hypothesis has been tested millions of times, probably at this point, since outcomes are consistent. There has to be a natural law that explains it, even if our conventionals or popular science doesn't. So, these are recordings that you listen to, and it's me working on the bioelectric field of anybody who was listening live and anyone who had ever listened to the recording. So you're there. If you're listening to it, you were there when I did it. And some people may find these recordings helpful in settling down the noise in their brain and freeing up more bandwidth for themselves.
Beautiful. Thank you. And again, everybody watching or listening right now, there's a button right below that you can click on to head over to Eileen's site. So thank you so much. This has been an awesome conversation, and I just love it. So any last insights, anything else you feel like we've left out?
Well, I think one of the biggest things that I've seen in my work, the biggest problem that derails people is a belief that they're not worthy of being healthy, of being happy, of getting help. That's a big one. I don't understand why so many people feel that way. I was talking to my son about it, he was complaining about something he wasn't getting done. And I said, I've learned that if there's something that I'm struggling with, if there's a can I'm kicking down the road, if there's a problem I'm not solving, I need help with it. Yeah. And he said, I don't feel worthy of asking for help. And I think a lot of people feel that way.
Yeah.
So if you need help, and I think we all need help. I didn't get healthy by myself. I got healthy because other people helped me to get healthy. And because I believe that I was worthy of receiving that. Because when you're healthier and you're stronger, you can help more people. Right. And I think a lot of us want to help. We want to be able to go out there and serve and give back. We can't if we're not getting the help we need. Right. So you're worthy of being vibrantly healthy. The world needs you to be as healthy as you can. When you recover and you have your own hero's journey, then you're in the position to help other people. Right. But we don't do it alone. Yeah. So ask for help and graciously receive it.
Beautiful. Yes. Awesome. I love that. Thank you. Beautiful. Yeah. Thank you so much for doing this, Eileen. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, you bet, Andy. Thanks for having me.
And thank you everyone for tuning in, for showing up for yourself, and we'll see you again real soon. Take care.